Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dorian Show. We are coming in live in my studio apartment. I just want to acknowledge that I had some audio issues from last week's episode. And I just want to thank you guys for those who stuck with me. I just want to let you guys know I bought a new mic, so hopefully that fixes everything. If not, I don't know what it could be. It might be the cable, it might be the audio recorder, but hopefully it's the mic because I don't have a lot of money to spend, but I will get this fixed. Surely, somehow, some way. So it's been a while, guys, and since I last saw you, I think I might have lost a couple of pounds. Could you tell? Could you see my jawline? I didn't even know I had this before, honestly. For those of you guys watching at home on video on YouTube or Spotify. And those of you just listening on the audio, you just got to believe me that I lost some weight. Got to watch the video to see the proof, guys. So what's new with me? Just give you guys an update. I have been trying to be more productive in my life. And by that, I mean I started writing. I'm not going to get into what I'm writing right now, but I'm starting to write. Haven't been writing every day. I got to say, writing is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. Like, I feel so much dread typing the words in my head onto the computer. And I just wish it would be over. Like, I'm just typing. I'm like, oh, God, please let it end so I could stop. It's a weird feeling where I make, when I do write, I wrote maybe twice this week, which is bad because I'm trying to write every day, but twice this week I did it for an hour and I forced myself to sit down and write for an hour. And I'm just praying for the hour to be done. And at the end of the hour, I still have stuff I could write, but I just dread it so much that I stop. But yeah, I'm doing that. I'm just trying to put words on a paper at this point. Like, it doesn't even matter if it's good. I'm just trying to produce words on a paper. And I think this extends to other parts of my my life right now, too. I'm trying to use my time more wisely. I'm trying to be more productive. And, I obviously I wish that my production or what I'm producing is giving me positive feedback immediately, but a lot of it doesn't. Like, no one's going to see any of the stuff that I write for a long time, right? I'm not doing anything with it. I'm doing this podcast. It's not as successful as I like, obviously, but I love talking about finance, dude. I can't explain it. I love talking about finance. I love talking about stocks. I love talking about financial markets. And I got to thank the few but powerful listeners that I have that I really do appreciate your support, and I'm going to keep doing these hopefully on a weekly basis. I also started making some eating videos on the YouTube, or some of you guys call it mukbangs, because I'm sad. No, I think I've been doing it because I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to document my weight loss, and I thought it'd be funny to just watch me eat online and just still get skinnier every single week. So I don't know how that's doing. Obviously not immediately successful, which is kind of wild. You're just eating in front of a camera and no one watches it. So that kind of sucks. But, I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do with all this time I have. I mean, I don't have a lot of time, but I don't want to just sit around and watch YouTube, although I enjoy it a lot, but also like put out content for other people to watch. And it's I think my goal is to stop trying to be such a big consumer, but be more of like a producer of stuff. So I consume a lot of content on YouTube. I thought it would be good if I could put some stuff out there for you guys to see. But anyway, that's enough about me. Let's jump into the financial markets, which is what everybody is here to listen to me talk about, I guess. I don't know. The Longshoreman Strike ended after 3 days. They made a temporary agreement to get back to work. And they're gonna have to hash out a final agreement in January 15th, 2025, which is only 3 months away, which is not too far from now. And so yeah, I don't know if you guys have been following, but like the longshoremen crew, they're part of a union that's one of the most powerful unions in the U.S. I guess I didn't know they were. I mean, I knew the L.A. West Coast has their own union, but I guess this one's a lot bigger. It's all the major ports of the East Coast are fall under this one union, and their union lead, this guy's kind of a gangster, dude. He like goes on TV with a gold chain and allegedly makes like $800,000 a year, drives like a Rolls Royce, and et cetera, et cetera. He has like a deep, like East Coast accent. He's like, "I'm gonna cripple you. I'm gonna cripple the economy," which doesn't really get people on your side, I gotta say. But I also think like a majority of people are pro-union in the country. But I go on. I get a lot of news from Twitter, which is probably not the best place to get financial. This is a great place to get financial news, but like unbiased in terms of political, because I think a lot of finance people, especially on Twitter, are probably very. I guess they lean more conservative, more right wing, so they tend to be more anti-union. Me personally, I'm not anti-union all the time. I mean, I'm more pro the longshoreman union more than like the teachers union. You know what I mean? Like, at least the longshoremen are delivering goods. They're working hard. They're doing hard labor. But like the teachers union, I'm sorry, dude. The American public school system's trash, dude. And what has the union done for the students? Nothing. They don't. They suck is all I'm trying to say. Anyway, so some news were coming out that the average longshoreman was making like $150,000. And this is not their base salary, of course. This is with overtime and everything. I think the base salary was maybe $80,000. And with overtime, they were making up to $150 to $200K a year, which is a lot of money, especially for like the East Coast. It's a lot of money here in the West Coast. I live in LA, West Hollywood, and $150,000 is way more than what I'm making. And I'm not saying they shouldn't get paid more. I think if they could get it, they should try to get it, you know what I mean? But it just doesn't help. It doesn't help how people view them, you know what I'm saying? This reminds me a lot of like the BART union from maybe, it's probably almost 15 years ago now. This was in 2011 or 2012. I was living in San Francisco. That is where I'm from originally. Shout out to anybody listening from the Bay Area, San Francisco. So at the time, I was working at a nonprofit because that's the type of guy I am. I was working at a nonprofit, and I was making maybe, I want to say I was only making like $33,000 a year, which I know inflation 15 years ago, you're like, oh, wow. No, it was the salary was low back then. Also in 2012, $32,000. It might have been more, maybe $32,000 to $36,000, but it was around that range. It was not a lot of money. And San Francisco, high cost of living. And then during that time, BART was going on strike because their union wanted to make more money. And they're like, BART wouldn't pay us. And then it turns out the average person was making $85,000 at BART 15 years ago. And this was during like the recession. Like my dad lost his job. And little did he know he was never going to get a job as good as his last job. But yeah, the average person was making like $85,000, and they were like, "We need to get paid. We can't feed our families on $85,000 a year." And it was crazy. Like people were more pro union back then, and like a few of my coworkers, my friends at the time, they were like, "Yeah, I support union." I was like, "Dude, these fools are making more money than the people that they're transporting in from like the East Bay, Oakland, to come into San Francisco to work. They were making $85,000, and they were going on strike, preventing people that were making like $40,000, preventing those guys from coming into the city to work. So I don't know. I didn't feel good about that. I was like, dude, my dad would take that job and work for like $45,000. Like, but I think the longshoremen are a little bit more skilled workers. I'm pretty sure the BART workers, like you just kind of press a button on a train. I'm pretty sure you could just hire people off the streets, but they made a deal. So if BART made a deal, it was pretty clear the longshoremen would get a deal done. So the tentative agreement is for them to get a 62% raise on their income over 6 years, which is a lot of money. But that's not even, the thing is, that's not even the biggest sticking point of their new deal. Like, sure, $62,000 is like, I mean, not $62,000, 62% increase is a lot, right? So if their base is 85, 60% is what, dude? Like another $48,000. Let's say $50,000. That's crazy. So their base salary would become like $130,000 plus overtime, which is a time and a half. Dude, these guys are going to be raking in $200K, dude. But still, that's not even the biggest part. There's only about like 50,000 longshoremen, which is, I mean, the number is huge, $50,000 workers. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not that many people. But this huge sticking point is that they are refusing. They're refusing the ports to make advancement in technology, which is kind of an insane thing. And a lot of unions do this. They try to protect jobs. I get it. So they don't want any automation. You know what I mean? Like if they could, let's say the longshoremen are loading up containers and they have to drive these containers from one point of the port to another point of the port. Like they'd rather have someone do that manually than have like a machine load things into a truck, and then for that truck to have like a automatic driver. Like they don't want that. They want people's boots on the ground. And I get it. Like they're trying to save jobs, but in reality, it's really just costing the rest of society more money. I read an article recently that said that the U.S. ports are less efficient than ports in China and in Europe, which is kind of crazy. I thought, I thought unions are pretty strong in Europe, but they're more advanced. And I don't know how much more efficient they are. I don't know if they're 20% more efficient, 50%, 80%, 100% more efficient. But even just 20% more efficiency is crazy. If you think you could save that cost, you could cut like 20% of costs, and you could put, and customers could afford to buy more things. You know what I mean? Like for society as a whole, it's going to be a lot better, but it might hurt obviously the union workers that get fired. So, to the individuals, it might suck, but for society at large, it's probably a greater good if we automate a lot of these things. But that's besides the point. What I really want to talk about is how we could possibly find opportunities from this strike. So there are no news out right now. So they've accepted 62% raise over 6 years. They haven't talked about any of the automation that's going to go into the agreement, but the truth is, like, the shipping lines' cost is going to go way up. Regardless, it's going to go up because they have to pay all these longshoremen more, and it's going to be even worse if they can't automate it. They can't balance out the higher pay with automation to cut costs elsewhere. So, the labor unions do have a monopoly on labor out there in the ports, but one thing I learned from investing all these years as a successful investor with a white background and a crappy couch from Amazon is that there are always competitors. And what I'm trying to say is if the costs of bringing in goods through these freight lines to the East Coast of the U.S. and even to the West Coast and Long Beach and L.A. Port, if the costs are going to be too high, there will be alternatives. And some of these alternatives are obviously, number one, to ship all these ocean freights to Canada or Mexico, and then to transport the goods through railroads or trucks. So that's where I see some potential big earners coming up, or potential opportunities for us to make some money, and that is to invest in rail lines and also trucking business. I haven't really looked into too many of these businesses, but obviously I like Berkshire Hathaway. I think my mom still owns some of that, or my brother does, so I'm gonna buy. Yeah, my brother owns a bunch of Berkshire because my mom gifted us some stocks. This is generational wealth I'm talking about. So I like Berkshire Hathaway. They are obviously a conglomerate. They do own a railroad company inside their conglomerate, and from what I've heard, like their railroad business is not doing as well as their peers. Like their margins aren't as good, and they're not making as good of a revenue. But the rumor is that they've hired some business insiders for like to train people, the steam engine business people, to really squeeze out that margin for them. So I like Berkshire Hathaway. You know what I mean? Like you get protection from their diversification, and you get to own one of the biggest railroad companies in North America. And I think there's only maybe like 3 or 4 publicly traded railroad companies in the U.S. And I think Berkshire Hathaway is a lot cheaper than the other companies because they have a lower PE. I think their trailing PE is only 14. The 4P is only 19, less than 20. So that's pretty good. Like you get a bunch of other stuff too, right? But I guess it's a lot cheaper than these pure play railroad companies that I haven't really looked into yet. But their 4P is like over 30, which is kind of crazy, especially since a lot of tech like Google, like their forward PE is only 18 times earnings. And I get it. Like a lot of people are willing to overpay for companies because they think it's safe. A lot of these railroad companies pay a dividend, but I'm like, if that's the case, you might as well just buy like maybe like an oil company. Sure, like oil companies like go up and down a lot depending on how well oil prices are holding up. But if you hold it between like 10 to 15 years, like an oil company is actually pretty good investment because they pay a high dividend, 5 to 8%, some even more. Petrobras in Brazil are paying like 13%. They trade at low multiples. They're like less than 11, a lot of them, less than 11 price to earnings ratio. So I don't know. Maybe these railroad companies are making a bunch. Their earnings growth is going gangbusters. Maybe, but I doubt it. They do pay a dividend. You can also look into trucking companies. I don't know any trucking companies. I know UPS does a lot. I know JB Hunt. I know FedEx does a lot of that. But some pure trucking plays might be a good place to look at. I will be doing some research on it, and maybe I'll report back next week. Maybe I will report back next week, and you know what I mean? Like maybe I'll get into it. I think I'm gonna buy some for my mom for sure. She has more cash than me. But yeah, this might be a great opportunity to get in some investments, depending on how things go with the Longshoreman Strike agreement. Coming out in January. So, either way, I think cost is going to be up for these companies. So they're going to try to look at alternatives anyways. if you guys are looking for a side business, like if you own a truck, this might be actually a good business to get into. Um, I haven't looked into it, because I have a 9 to 5. But if I didn't, like, this might be a thing for me to get in. Like, get a delivery truck. You don't even need to get an 18-wheeler. Is it 14-wheeler, 18-wheeler? You might not even get that. You could get like a smaller side truck, like one of those bigger UPS trucks. I don't think you need a special license to operate it. But yeah, there's opportunities. There's money to be made every single day. I'm just not making any of it. I am making some money. I am making money through stocks because I'm lazy, and it's one of the best ways to make money, if you ask me, dude. You just buy stocks and you don't need to worry about anything. You don't need to worry about the day-to-day business. And then when you sell, you got to pay the U.S. government and California government, Gavin Newsom, a bunch of money. But besides that, earning assets is a great way to build wealth, guys. What else I want to talk about here? The price of oil is finally going up. I think it went from like maybe like $68 a barrel to like $75 a barrel. And this is because news is that Israel is thinking about bombing the oil fields of Iran, which is kind of crazy. I don't know where oil's gonna go. Like in my mind, the price of oil should be a lot higher because we're in like 3 different wars, right? We got the Ukraine-Russian war, we got Israel-Gaza, now Israel-Iran, and basically Israel against the whole Middle East, against all these oil-producing companies. You know what I mean? Like the price of oil should be going crazy. And then I think Joe Biden was just like selling oil into the market. Back when it was spiking, he was just, like our reserves are down and we might have a freaking war with China because China might want to take Taiwan. So I don't know. I don't know why oil is still only at $75. It should be a lot higher, but this might be the final catalyst. Oil might be also low because people think we are in a recession. That's typically why the price of oil will go down, is that, we're in a recession. People travel less. People buy less goods. There'll be too much supply over demand, obviously. So maybe the market knows something that I don't. Every financial expert I've been listening to is like, there's no recession. The market's great. There's no inflation. And that is part true. Like the stock market has been doing wonderful for me. I think my stock portfolio is at an all-time high, I think. So that part is right. But besides that, everything else kind of feels like we are in a recession. You know what I mean? Like, sure, inflation has gone back down to like 2%. But prices have already gone up like 50 to 100% for the past 2 years. So I need to see prices come down. And I think a lot of consumers want prices to come down, but that will not happen. Because once prices go up, it never comes down, except for maybe like gasoline and McDonald's. It's very interesting, like they said inflation has gone down. I feel actually poorer. Like during the pandemic, I felt like I was making pretty good money and I was saving some money. But now I'm technically making more money, but I feel like I'm living paycheck to paycheck, if that makes sense. And sure, inflation's coming down, like the prices of goods aren't going up as fast, but it already went up so much. Like I already feel the pain. I need a recession. Some of us might need a recession so we could finally feel we are doing better. But a recession will be detrimental to our economy. Obviously, it's going to hurt a lot of people. But for the people that don't lose their jobs, those recession's pretty nice, dude. You get to invest more. Your money goes further. But yeah, it's a balance, dude. I don't know. So if the recession is true, oil is going to keep going down. But I can't see it going down any lower than like $60 per barrel. You know what I mean? Because even if there's a recession, we are in a war with at least Ukraine and Russia, between Ukraine and Russia and Israel against the whole Middle East. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not good. And if China decides to attack Taiwan, then man, oil should be going up past $100 a barrel. But you know, if we resolve these wars and stuff, and we go into recession, like I wouldn't be surprised to see oil go below $40 a barrel or $30 a barrel. And once that happens, it's actually a really good time to buy some oil companies because recessions don't last forever. You know what I mean? So if the price of oil ever goes down to like sub 40, I'm a buyer. You should probably be a buyer too. Not financial advice. But it's a matter of like finding which companies you want to buy. Do you want to find oil producers, people that freaking drill, or you want to do like refiners, or you want to do people that do all of it like Chevron and Shell and BP? That's something you would have to look at. I've owned BP in the past, made a little money. I've owned Chevron in the past, made a little money. I've owned Petrobras, which is a Brazilian oil company, made a ton of money off of that. So I might get back into the oil play. I do like energy. I do love oil. Oil will also probably go up if the longshoremen ask for too much, you know what I mean? Because they're going to reroute all the ship containers to somewhere else so that uses just as much oil, but then they'll need more oil from running the trains and all the trucks across the continent. So, dude, I might be buying oil now, but I think at $75 a barrel, maybe wait for a pullback. All right? Not financial advice. I recently read this very interesting article about Javier Milei, who's the president of Argentina. And he's like a crazy libertarian, which if I had to pick a political party, that's where I'm at. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, do whatever you want as long as you don't hurt people, freedom for everyone, but also less spending from the government. And so what he did is crazy. He got rid of rent control in Argentina, and overall rents across the board went down by 40%. And the reason is because that people saw that rent control was gone. They started putting more supply into the market. Like, they weren't even building new units of housing, I think. I think people, because they hated rent control so much, they were just holding on to their units, or they were doing it for Airbnb, or just renting it to people, like, you know, in the black market. Like, let's say your aunt has a unit, and then your aunt's like renting it out to you because they trust you. They'll give you a deal, but like, it's probably better than like giving it to someone they don't know under rent control who could screw them over. So there was a lot of black market units being rented out like that. But since he got rid of rent control, the supply increased by 170%. That means if there was 100 units available, there's 170 units available now. And that's why rents across the board have been going down. And of course, not everybody is benefiting. It's not like rent from everywhere is going down. Some people had their rents increase like double, and that's squeezing them, you know what I mean? But that's a small percentage of people, you know what I'm saying? So like I said before with the unions, you know, if you got rid of the unions, like a small percent of people will get hurt, but overall, the majority of the people will benefit. And same thing with rent control. Like, some people are getting squeezed out of getting priced out of where they're living, which sucks, right? If you're paying like $1,000 and all of a sudden they're trying to charge you like $1,400 or like even over $2,000 a month, like, that's insane. Like, I feel bad for those people, but if it makes rent cheaper for people overall, then maybe, you know, I don't know. There has to be a balance. And I live in a rent control area. I live in West Hollywood. Rent control. In West Hollywood, they basically all the landlords talk to the city of West Hollywood, and then they agree on a certain percentage increase they're allowed to every year. So my rent went up in 2024 by only like 2.5%, which is very little. Like objectively, it's very little. It's probably less than inflation, but I still didn't like it. I don't like any increase. You know what I mean? They like raised me like $90, and I'm like, dude, what the hell are you guys doing, dude? These freaking rich landowners are just trying to, try to oppress me. I'm the poor. They're trying to oppress the poor, and I'm poor. But really, 2.5% is not bad. And will it suck if they doubled my rent? Yeah, it would suck. But guess what? You know what I would have done? I would have moved. I would have moved out of West Hollywood. I would have lived in my car. Honestly, if my rent right now is like $2,000, let's just say it's a little bit less than that. But if they raised it like $3,000, I would have been gone. Like I would have lived in my car. And even if I didn't, I might stay for a couple months until I find something better in a different city. Maybe I'll move back to Long Beach. I love Long Beach. Maybe Burbank will have a better rent. Maybe North Hollywood will have better rents. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, it's just very interesting. You know what I mean? Like a lot of places with rent control do have very expensive rents, like San Francisco for sure, New York City for sure. Los Angeles, certain areas for sure. West Hollywood, for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is a very interesting thing to see Javier Milei pull out. And they're such a small country, you know what I mean? So it's a good way to see how things work out. It'll be kind of crazy if they just got rid of rent control here in LA as a whole, because like what if it doesn't work? Like that's why what we always fear is like, what if it doesn't work? What if people get priced out? It'll be crazy. But yeah, I don't know, just some food for thought. You know what I mean? If Argentina is able to do a lot of these like small government, more libertarian policies, like maybe we could export some of that back here and we'll be able to benefit, and we'll just use them as a guinea pig. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, that's it. All I got to say for that. Obviously, the Fed's cut rates. Like I said, I think in the next year, inflation is going to come back. So if I have any advice for anybody, it's probably buy stocks, buy commodities. They're going to go up. If inflation comes back, price of oil is going to go up. Price of goods is going to go up. Housing is going to go up. But yeah, own stocks. The stocks will go up. If inflation comes back, people will just pour money into stocks because they want that return. And stocks have been giving some good returns so far. All right. So thank you guys for listening. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to. And I'll catch you guys next week. See you guys on the next one. Peace out.